Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show, the podcast, Christmas Eve edition. There will be no elf hats, no snow, no reindeer shit on your front lawn today. Instead, we're going to talk about a good old conspiracy theory. But one that is looking increasingly more possible. I'm not going to use the word likely. I'm going to use the word possible. If the chances 3 days ago of this happening were 2%, I would probably categorize them now as 15%. A big old jump in percent, but still like far, far from likely. Possible, yes. Likely, no. We are, of course, talking about the inclusion of Barry Bonds in MLB The Show 25. We have evidence of him coming out of his shell a little bit. And today we're just going to talk about that evidence, and we're going to talk about the history of why Barry Bonds is such an SOB when it comes to being in video games. Before we hop into things, a quick programming note. You had yesterday's mailbag. You have the podcast today. You have an upload on Thursday. If you're a YouTube person, that's the content coming this week. Next week on the YouTube, you'll have a Tuesday podcast and a Thursday upload. Those are the only two videos you'll have next week because it's the holidays and I'm traveling and driving around like a Looney Tune. But then we're back to our normal schedule after that. So I just wanted to make sure everyone is apprised of what's going on. So let's start talking about the goods. That's why you're here. We need this button. We need this button. We need this button, and we need this button. Okay. So let's start with what's ahead. MLB The Show 25. Likely coming in mid-ish March. It's my guess. We should start learning more details at the end of January. But MLB The Show 25. 25 is a big number, right? It's a milestone number. In the past, I've looked into milestones that happened in the year 2000, and honestly, not a ton of, like, earth-shattering ones. The Subway Series happened in the year 2000, but of course, we had the Subway Series storyline for Derek Jeter, so that wouldn't align. The big number 25 in baseball history is good old Barry Bonds. And in the past, this golden logo, see the golden 25, this is officially revealed from SDS. A golden logo for the number has been attached to legends in the past. Ken Griffey Jr. primarily being like the prime example of it. So, does this mean? Could it be Barry Bonds? We were quick to write it off. We were like, oh, cool, wouldn't that be fun? But we're not going to get our hopes up. Why would we? This does, however, come on the heels of Barry Bonds kind of coming out of hiding a little bit. Oh, I hit the wrong button, I think. Maybe not. Okay, so in, I believe this was in August. In August, Pirates fans already know this, Barry Bonds was one of three legendary Pirates figures enshrined in the Pittsburgh Pirates Hall of Fame. But August 24th, 2024 was the first time he had been back in Pittsburgh in 10-plus years since he gave Andrew McCutchen his NL MVP award on opening day of 2014. So that's like 10 years and a couple months of not being back at PNC. Doesn't necessarily in a vacuum mean a ton. It does mean that maybe the Pirates and Barry Bonds, whatever animosity there was, they made up in that 10-year period. Very recently, the Cubs, quote-unquote, made up with Sammy Sosa. The Cubs were in the wrong from the start. Sammy Sosa did nothing wrong. Nothing he did was illegal at the time. He just got people interested in the sport again, which is a good thing. But that's on Cubs ownership, neither here nor there. But there is, like, it's happening a lot the last couple of years of, like, prodigal sons coming home and making good. There's a hair floating around, so excuse me. Being reaccepted into the fan base, even though there were very few reasons in a lot of these cases why they were unaccepted to begin with. So Barry Bonds sticking his head up again. Like, oh, cool, Barry's back. Could have just been nothing. At the time, it was. Now we move on to what happened today, the day of recording, Monday. Big freaking deal. Big freaking deal. Barry Bonds will have a Topps certified autograph card for the first time since 2017. I don't freaking know. We all know that MLB The Show has a partnership with Topps, or I guess Fanatics, which is also Topps. That's how we get all the cool cards in the game, or a lot of the cool cards in the game. You also have to sign your rights away to Topps to be on a card. Whew, there's a whole lot here. I quote tweeted this, as did many people in the community, saying something to the effect of, does this mean he's in the show next year? And we move on to the next segment here. Topps liked the tweet. Hold up, he might be in the show. Liked by Topps. This could just be a social media admin who likes to engage in the community and likes most things. Distinctly possible. If you have experience talking to Topps on the internet, please let me know. But if they just leaked something, which, let's not jump to extremes, I doubt they did. But let's just say this was like a, hey, wink, wink. Wink, wink. Odds look good. Someone's getting fired. So I said, liked by Topps. Ramon, MLB The Show, you have some explaining to do. Is Bonds happening? Again, hardly the only person who talked about this. Nutsy, friend of the show. Definitely not saying Bonds is 100% happening, but this is the most it's ever felt like there's a chance of happening for sure. Ants, another friend of the show. Barry back giving his rights out again? MLB The Show 25 cover next? Question mark. Scan. We're just talking to all the friends of the show. Oh, that's not what I wanted to. What the hell? Dallas, Fort Worth. Nope, that's not what I wanted. Whoopsie. Scan. All friends of the show. Hi, at MLB The Show. Okay, maybe that one wasn't. Scan, I love you. That wasn't the most insightful tweet that I thought it was. Never mind. Moving on. Chev. The stars are aligning. The stars are aligning. Adam. If Barry somehow appears in the show. Like, it's looking less and less impossible. So now I want to talk about the history of Bonds and his, not controversial, confusing rights. I read this article before recording. It's by a fella named Ryan Ferguson from the UK. In it, he British, hello, from across the pond. Sorry if that offended anybody. This is from May 2021, but the point all still stands. It's written exceptionally well. It does come from a blog, so obviously we have to vet that. But he listed his sources at the bottom, and one of the sources which he cited heavily was a 2004 ESPN article by Darren Ravel, and I read that too, and everything checks out. This is a vetted, well-written article. If I remember to, I will link it in the description of the comments. If for some reason I forget, just let me know. And I will pull it up, and I will make sure I reply to your comment on YouTube with this article if you want to read it in full. I'm not going to read it in full. I'm going to read the first 3 segments. So I apologize if you don't like this, but for a couple minutes here, it's going to sound like an audiobook. But this is all important information and context for some people who don't know why Barry Bonds is so hesitant to give his rights out. Again, full credit to Ryan Ferguson, whoever you are. Big baseball fan, clearly. And it's kind of written like an English bloke. It's got some words that are funny. But just work with me here. So we're going to read this as best we can, as quick. We're not going to waste a lot of time here. Already messed up. An unexpurgated, I write and edit for a living. Got to look that one up. History of Barry Bonds video game aliases. So the impetus for this article is really to talk about like John Dowd, Reggie Stocker, those type of things. The first 3 parts that we're going to read have nothing to do with that. It only has to do with the history. And that's what we care about here. But again, good article top to bottom if you want to read it. With the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X opening a new age of consumer tech, young gamers have never had it so good. In a world obsessed with instant gratification, these consoles and the video games they enable are monuments to our quest for perfection. This is a novel. Every detail is accounted for, and the border between fantasy and reality is suitably blurred. There's no margin for error and little space for fiction. We need everything to be short, sharp, and correct, and we need it now, before our attention dwindles down another TikTok rabbit hole. Imagine the outrage, therefore, if the world's most popular video games omitted some of the most transcendent legends in their fields. Imagine FIFA without Cristiano Ronaldo, or NBA 2K without LeBron. Imagine Madden without Patrick Mahomes, or Mario Kart without Mario. That's a good one. There would be a cataclysmic meltdown with brand boycotts and citywide protests. We would not settle for such logical redundancy because it would dispel our illusions of flawless majesty. Well, in bygone eras, gamers were not so fortunate. In fact, for an entire half-decade in the 2000s, baseball fans were particularly deprived. You see, despite being statistically one of the greatest baseball players ever to grab a bat, Barry Bonds did not appear in any video games after the 2003 season. A polarizing star with the San Francisco Giants, Bonds retired following the 2007 campaign, holding the all-time and single-season home run records. Still, he has not featured in a video game for 18 years and counting. And now, if you tack on another 3, 21 years and counting. Because this is from 2021. That is an entire generation, and as video game elders, we owe it to the raw neophytes to explain why. Hell of an intro. The editor in me is like, ooh, do you want to write about the sport that I cover? Because I need you. I need freelancers. That's part of my job, managing freelance budget. Neither here nor there, but I like giving little peeks into my life. So here we go. Next subhead: why didn't Barry Bonds appear in baseball video games? Here, listen close. This explains it all. In November 2003, Bonds announced his withdrawal from a joint licensing agreement upheld by the Major League Baseball Players Association, the de facto union. Targeting the sacred home run milestones of Willie Mays, Babe Ruth, and Hank Aaron, Bonds bet on himself to earn millions from exclusive deals with baseball card manufacturers and apparel merchandisers. Ever the iconoclast, Barry wanted full control over his intellectual property, denying the use of his name, voice, likeness, batting stance, interesting, and autograph to entities that deigned to pay a separate fee. Traditionally, the joint licensing agreement rewarded players based on the number of service days they accrued in the major leagues each year. As such, it was a subtle mechanism for stars to help out scrubs, one homogenous group leveraging its marketability, for the wider good. Sure, those marquee players who featured more prominently in advertising campaigns and on branded products received greater remuneration. That's a tough one. But ancillary income from collectively bargained licensing deals could be life-changing for bit part veterans earning the league minimum salary. Hence, an implied agreement not to disrupt the ecosystem, fashioned by decades of hard work. Hence, an unwritten rule not to challenge the equilibrium. And hence, an unspoken utilitarianism among players. The union knew how to pick its battles. While revenue from the licensing of players' IP soared in the early 2000s, dividing that liberally was a small concession when cast against the backdrop of a $4 billion industry centered on television, radio, and ticket sales riches. By kiboshing the joint licensing agreement, Bonds showed no regard for the little guy, including teammates such as, oh my god, throwbacks, your Victorialba, Pedro Feliz, and Joe Nathan. Barry saw a potential goldmine by going at it alone, and there was no stopping his voracious lust for headline adulation. Quick summarization before we read that one. There's one last section I want to read. Quick summarization. Barry Bonds didn't want to split his monies up because he was chasing, arguably, the most legendary sports record there was. Arguably. I understand fans of other sports might not agree, but the home run record is the thing. And so he said, F it. I'm leaving. You can't use my name for nothing. Only I get to say what my name is used for. He bet on himself. Did it work? You be the judge. Moving on. And this will be the last subhead we read. It's a little bit longer, but this gets into more of the nitty-gritty of why he did it. How Michael Jordan and Tiger Woods inspired Barry Bonds to create his own video game. A Barry Bonds video game, you say? I've never heard of that. Most people haven't. We'll learn about it. So, here we go. In this regard, Bonds was inspired by a slew of sporting icons who took back control of their IP rights in the 1990s. At his startling apogee, basketball demigod Michael Jordan was quick to protect his image, displaying extraordinary foresight while maximizing his earning potential. Jordan withdrew the use of his likeness from NBA goods in 1992, with trading cards and jerseys exempt. As a result, Jordan never appeared in basketball video games, with popular titles referring to roster player 99 instead, or in his stead. Same thing. Similarly, in 1998, Tiger Woods signed a lucrative deal with Electronic Arts to become the face of its PGA Tour golf game, released on Windows and the original PlayStation. Tiger Woods PGA Tour 2001, I believe, is the best golf game and maybe one of the best sports games ever made. Just putting that out there. An emerging genius who captivated crowds, Woods earned $7 million per year from EA, and the game became synonymous with him. So much so that the title was scrapped soon after Woods' contract expired in 2013. Without Tiger, there was little point carrying on. A man of monstrous ego, driven by a desire to rewrite baseball history, Barry Bonds wanted a slice of that pie. Bonds wanted his own video game, just like Woods, and so he declined the union's collective licensing efforts. Confirming the unorthodox decision to break free, Bonds wrote a letter to Judy Heater, the union's director of business affairs and licensing, explaining his plans for in-house public relations and autonomous marketing departments. The union made little attempt to dissuade Bonds from his insurrectionist path. In turn, Bonds hired a licensing operations team and launched his own website, seeking to spin a new narrative about his life and career. His entourage negotiated more than 20 individual licensing deals, collaborating with a smorgasbord of firms to produce a litany of tchotchkes. From custom jerseys, bats, and balls to animated snow globes and collectible coins. Wow, Barry, you did it. However, most leading baseball card and video game producers refused to compromise their goodwill agreements with the MLB Players Association by humoring Bonds. Choosing a side, basically. Increasing the likelihood that most prominent titles would omit the perennial MVP from their latest iterations. In theory, as his home run chase reached a boiling point, Bonds wanted to pit retailers like Topps, Donruss, and Upper Deck against each other for the right to produce and sell bespoke Barry regalia. There was even talk of Bonds enticing Mays, his godfather, and Aaron into the project, creating a merchandise cabal centered on the home run kings. Bonds was a law unto himself, and that extended to his latent commercial empire. Indeed, even as Bonds testified before a grand jury probing the Bay Area laboratory company, Balco, and its links to performance-enhancing drugs in professional sports, organizations could not get enough of the chimerical slugger. Everything Bonds did was must-watch, and several companies gambled on that mass attention by partnering with the Giants' enigma. There was no such thing as bad publicity, and Barry was ready to cash in. To that end, participating in somebody else's video game was not enough, so Bonds partnered with M Forma Group Inc., a mobile entertainment firm in the Pacific Northwest, to create a licensed cell phone game. Imagine a cell phone game in 2004? Featuring his name, likeness, signature, and voice. When released in May 2004, Barry Bonds' home run history allowed players to take control of a pixelated Bonds and power past the aforementioned greats en route to dinger glory. I'm not going to read this quote because it doesn't make sense, or it's irrelevant. Needless to say, sales were dire, and the internet holds little recollection of this technological flop. After years of haggling and hustling, Bonds' big release was a damp squib. There was more to this whole eponymous video game thing, after all, and the divisive star bit off more than he could chew. So, that was a fun thing to read. Thank you for dealing with my audiobook for a little bit. Where do we go from here? What does this all mean? Bonds has long wanted to go at it alone. He hasn't been in a game since 2003. But, you know, maybe now that he's off the Hall of Fame ballot, right? I believe he is. 2025 MLB Hall. Is he off the ballot? Hall of Fame ballot. He's definitely off the ballot, right? Am I high? This is the one, right? Billy Wagner. We're looking together as a team. Yeah, he's off the ballot. I think last year was the ballot, right? His last one? Whatever. Now that he's off the Hall of Fame ballot, you know, he resurfaced in Pittsburgh, where he started his Hall of Fame career and would have been a Hall of Famer if he played like that his entire life. He's signing cards for Topps. Like, if this one right here that we're looking at, if this is the first Topps card that has his signature since 2017, this card gonna be expensive. I don't know how MLB The Show's agreement with Topps works. If they have the players' rights Does MLB The Show just have the ability to use every card Topps creates of that person? I would guess. But if Barry's in the business of signing rights away, and it's MLB The Show 25, his number, it had the gold plating lettering or numbering, just like it has traditionally in the past with Ken Griffey Jr., and I want to say Jackie Robinson. I apologize if that's wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. I mean, it's been a couple years of, if we're being honest, kind of snoozers for MLB The Show. They've already abandoned sets and seasons for next year. The community's hype, ready for it, excited. You want to build up hype even more? Big old Barry. Big Dick Barry Bonds. Are we connecting pieces that don't necessarily connect? Sure. There is no logical, because he's in Topps, that means he could be in MLB The Show. There's no correlation there. It's a feasible outcome, though. And the Topps thing opens the door further than it's been opened since 2003 to get Barry Bonds back in a game. Specifically, obviously, the game we love, MLB, or the game we play, MLB The Show. Some people don't love it, even though they keep playing it. This would be incredible. I want to read some of the comments that I got on my post on the good old elon.com machine. This person, and I'm not necessarily calling these people out if you said silly things, but just, this is no offense. Bonds would be by far the worst possible legend to add. Strong disagree. Unless the stats are 125 across the board for hitting, the entire community will complain. Use the time and resources to sign more historic players than one guy. Normally, I would say yes to your last statement. However, this is the most historic guy they could get. And he will be 125 across the board. His 99 will be the best hitting card in the game. It'll have max hitting, max clutch, max vision. He's probably going to have 90 fielding, 90 speed. He's going to be the best card you've ever seen. No one complains when Ruth has 125s across the board. Why would this be any different? So since some of the community will complain it will be the worst legend to possibly add. Should have vetted that one. He said you sound stupid. I don't want to call people names. Sorry about that. Edge says, I am in favor of it. He still needs to improve his likeness on sports games, and also the MLBPA to upheld his rejection. That's what we just talked about. They allowed him to leave. Pirates Hall of Fame inductee and Topps feature is a start. And Nate says MLB 25. That makes sense. I don't know. I mean, listen, you guys be the judge of my conspiracy. I'm not the only one, but this conspiracy theory. Also, follow me on X while you're here. Thank you. Link is down below. I think it'd be, game-changing. It would be outrageous if Barry Bonds was in MLB The Show 25. You want to talk about people coming to play? Think about it this way, in theory. This isn't a perfect analogy or conversation starter, but think about it. As Ryan Ferguson, the great writer we just read, as he wrote, it's been a generation since anybody's been able to play with Barry Bonds, since 2003. And if you count his stupid mobile game, 2004. There is a 20-year gap of people who's gotten to play with the greatness of Barry Bonds. There might be people who used him in 2003 who gave up video gaming. Big baseball fans be like, oh my God, Barry's back? Maybe I'll give it a good old shot. It's great for marketing. It's really good for marketing. It's great for the game. Clearly, SDS has taken a stance on the steroid guys. McGuire's in, Sosa's in, Pettit's in, Ortiz is in. Probably others that I'm just forgetting off the top of my head. And no conversation about late 90s, early 2000s baseball is complete without Barry Bonds. McGuire and Sosa may have had the great home run race chase of 97, 98, whatever year it was. Barry Bonds was doing his damn thing then too. I think it's possible. I think it's more possible than it's ever been. I'm still saying a 15% chance. I may have talked myself up to 20%. Maybe that's too high. I don't know. I'm leaving myself room to not get my hopes up. But I'm also leaving myself enough room to be like, ha, I knew it. I knew it. I was onto it. So that's where my head's at. But yeah. But yeah, so... Oh, that's the wrong button. Hello. So you guys tell me, what do y'all think? On a scale of 1 to 10, how likely do you think it is that Barry Bonds is the legend cover of MLB The Show 25? You can give decimal points. You want to give a 2.5, you give a 2.5. How likely is it? What do you think? I appreciate you guys. If you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas. If you celebrate Hanukkah, Happy Hanukkah. If you celebrate anything else, I hope you enjoy celebrating whatever it is with whoever you're around. The holidays can be hard for some people as well. I experienced that firsthand, given the loss of my mom. Just power through. I know that's not maybe the best advice, but do what you can. There are people who care, people who can help you, myself being one of them. So if you're struggling, don't be afraid to hit me up. We're all community, a family, like Vin Diesel says. So thank you guys. Love you guys. Enjoy the holidays. Be safe. And I'll see you next time.